for the very first material of 2024. Happy New Year, by the way. We are going to go across the border into Hungary, into the small city of Ozd, and the name of the game today, it's called Denevér, or what translates from Hungarian into English as bat. And we have here the 2022 release called Vampire or Vámpír in Hungarian, and the 2023 release called the Chronicles of the Blood Drinkers, or vérivók, krónikái, I think is the correct Hungarian pronunciation, and both were issued under the label of Metal or Die Records, a small Hungarian label, Metal or Die. And if you want to order these two products, you have to use the official email address, which I will leave in the description of this video, together with as much data as possible. Yahoo email address, okay, like they had it in the late 90s and early 2000. Denevér, again, in Hungarian means bat. We have a couple of people interested in our channel in Hungary, and they have asked me to review these two materials, saying that, you know, Mr. Ermeni, can you please bring the CDs back home? I suppose they meant Transylvania, because in Romania the cult of the vampire is alive, and should anybody know what the vampire is about, then the Romanians are the one that know all about it. Normally I would be tempted to take it as a compliment if I were sure that this kind of a remark has nothing to do with Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, which is a pile of rubbish in my opinion. So if you really believe what you said, and you really think that the Romanians know what the vampire is about, I will take it as a compliment. But if you said it after reading Bram Stoker's book, then just go back to the book, to that book, and believe whatever you want to believe, because I can tell you for sure it has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on here in Romania. And there are many other books written on the subject which are way better than Bram Stoker. Even Jules Verne, The Castle from the Carpathians, is a much better book than that. But anyway, let us leave these details aside. Yes, I can do the review. I don't know if you are going to like my review or what I have to say on the subject, or if you will not be disappointed, but yeah, doing the review I can do that. And every now and then we kind of need to make a gesture of courtesy towards our neighbors. But this is not the real reason. The real reason is that this is not exactly a band, it's more like a solo project of a person called Tibor Terebesi, I think, living in Ozd. Ozd is a small Hungarian city in the north of Hungary, as far as I know, an industrial site, heavy industry, the kind of environment from where you would expect thrash metal, death metal, industrial metal, but not so much vampiric black metal. If vampiric black metal is the right term in this case, we will discuss this kind of label, vampiric black metal, if it applies or not to the release. And as I said, when it's about solo projects, I kind of have a soft spot, because, you know, people who do everything by themselves, such as Mr. Tibor Terebesi, living in a small city such as Ozd, and most probably not having too many people to talk about or to help him out. When it comes to solo musicians, I'm more willing to help, because these kind of guys deserve perhaps more media attention, because playing black metal by yourself is a very chivalrous and noble thing to do. So in this case, as I said, I have kind of a soft spot, and of course on the condition that the release has a high quality level or a decent quality level, and on the condition that the release is original enough, then of course no problem, we can review your materials in here. And what I want to highlight from the very beginning is that playing black metal in Hungary is far from being a very easy job, in the sense that as far as the 80s are concerned, the things are very clear. As far as the 90s are concerned, again, the things are very clear. In the 80s, we had in Hungary the famous figure of Attila Csihar, who played in Tormentor. At the time, things were very simple in the 80s. We had one band in Hungary and one band in Romania. We had Tormentor in Hungary and Tectonic in Romania. There was nothing else, or nothing else worthy of attention. Interesting fact about Attila Csihar is that he was in contact with the music of Venom and of Bathory, the Swedish band, but he knew nothing about Mayhem. But as much as I talked to the persons that were there in Budapest at the time, when he started playing with Tormentor, he played under the nickname of Mayhem, but he knew nothing about Mayhem. It was just a coincidence. He never heard about Mayhem, but Mayhem heard about him, and Euronymous or somebody from Mayhem got into contact and called him to play the vocal parts for the Mysteries Dum Satanas, the famous release from Mayhem. So that's very clear in the 80s, and in the 90s, again, it's even more clear with Sir Bliss, fabulous band, extremely original sound. Andras Nog is a kind of a visionary genius, always into the avant-garde, bringing into black metal brass section, trumpet, trombone, all kind of original things. For instance, if you watch Sir Bliss, the cover from the Letters from the Edge, this is the result of body roll or raw body paint or something like that. This kind of cover from Letters from the Edge, the guy painted his back and then rolled over on a canvas, and this is called body paint or roll paint. And this is what Andras Nog has always done, you know, always coming with original ideas and original concepts, doing what nobody else did, and always having such a natural fucking sound. No mixing, no editing, no nothing, purest fucking possible quality of the sound. So these are kind of titans, both Tormentor and Sir Bliss, and they are impossible to beat. So from this point of view alone, and not only in Hungary, in entire Eastern Europe, nobody can beat Sir Bliss and Tormentor. And from this point of view, it must be a little bit frustrating to play black metal in Hungary, because the standards for the 80s and the standards for the 90s are so fucking high that it's almost impossible to beat them in the current years. But nevertheless, we have to pay attention to some attempts that do have a certain degree of originality. And okay, let's start with Vámpír. Okay, the one released in 2022, and it kind of looks like this on the inside. The release done by Metal or Die Records. Interesting thing in the interior of the jewel case and the back cover as well. Now, there is a thing to be discussed in here. What is the intention of the artist, of Tibor Terebesi, and what is the result? So I will show them to you one by one, and but my remarks will concern both of the releases. So the intention in here, the intention is to create an atmosphere of extremely strident, muscular attitude that goes all the way through, yeah? The intention was to add extra layers and hints of drama that are added to an already abyssal sound, and added to a treacherous undercurrent of bad feeling, a treacherous undercurrent of bad feeling that becomes visible or tangible along those extended instrumental parts that are put there on purpose to keep the dreary vibes alive. Okay. And the intention was also to bring a so-called magic to these releases. Magic meaning what keeps the listener hostage or hooked to the music. And magic is gained, as I have just said, by means of bombastic, melodramatic and epic parts played in a very, very raw, crude and true cult abrupt way. But it's not just about this element. Okay. Magic in such cases comes even from the fact that the musician plays with a total passion and with a diabolical devotion. And this particular something that I have just mentioned will never ever disappoint you. So this was the Vampir or Vampire from 2022, and let's see the other one as well, which is called the Chronicles of the Blood Drinkers or vérivók krónikái. Okay, the Chronicles of the Blood Drinkers. And this kind of diabolism on the side of this kind of something diabolical on the side of the musician is something that, as I said, will not disappoint you, because it's something impossible to name, but something that really, really grabs your full attention. And also the intention here was to bring forward a ferocious and emotionally charged set of tracks that contain anathemic courtesies, bewitching, opulent dramatic theatrical flair, a lot of intricate guitar work, frantic and uplifting guitar shredding, and all these things are extremely dense, and they kind of ferociously draw you in. So yes, what we are having in here is immense shredding, frantic riffing madness, immense shredding and frantic riffing madness aimed straight at the jugular. And also some sort of a caustic intensity played through in a constant commanding atmosphere. Yeah. And let's see the interior part of this. As I said, a constant commanding atmosphere and a crushing attitude and an explosive flair on the side of the musician. Okay, the CD in question, and very nice interior part of the CD. Not just an explosive flair, but also a very dynamic flair. Yeah, a very dynamic flair that actually knows how to use to the limits a huge density and a rough and rare energy, the kind of rough and rare energy that makes you feel that all of your shadows rise, the kind of energy that makes you feel that all of your shadows rise with the purpose of uplifting you into your youngest dark powers. Okay. This kind of a dynamic flair also translates into the fact that just when you think a track is going to end, it explodes again and grabs you again by the neck in an even stronger manner. Pretty much like a storm, strong enough by itself, like a storm that needs no wind intensity. And the real symbol or the real power in here, I would say, it is not the bat or Denevér in Hungarian, but the real symbol in here is the black sun and the absolute horror of an expansive and haunting, super sensible presence of brutal beauty. The kind of presence of a brutal beauty that takes you on a massive dark journey, something like something taken from a Ridley Scott movie, Alien, if you want to put it like this. Something sorrowful and coldly hopeless, but it is sorrowful and hopeless without being depressive in any way. How I should describe this two releases at the level of the intention, it's pretty much like having sodomizing sex with Sepultura and Sarcophago and Sodom at the same time. So yeah. So this was kind of the intention of Mr. Tibor Terebeshin here. Now, has he managed, because the intention, as I said, is very easy, transparent and easy to understand. Now, did he manage to bring all this kind of intentionality to a solid effect? By putting the things into a scale, I would say that to a greater extent he kind of managed to do it. And people who have asked, the people in Hungary and some of the people in Romania as well, who have asked me to review this kind of materials, were also not particularly happy with Rauta's review of the releases. And after watching Rauta's review myself, I kind of understand why. I'm not saying that Rauta was right or wrong. What Rauta said was that these two releases kind of lack the memorability factor, that they do not contain something, a track that is memorable. He is both right and wrong at the same time. I mean, of course, you will not find Slay the Nazarene from Marduk in here. You will not find Freezing Moon from Mayhem, or you will not find Ephel die Schwarze Schlange or Ephel the Black Snake from Bethlehem, or I don't know, Judas Priest Breaking the Law. Those are memorable songs. It won't be the case in here. But the question arises, are these two releases, despite this, memorable? My answer is yes, they are extremely memorable, but they are memorable as a whole, right? So you need to have the goodwill and the patience to listen from the beginning to the end, and then the experience as a whole is a downright fucking memorable one. And you also need to buy both of the products, because they seem to be a full part of the same story. So in order to understand the music of Denevér, you need to buy them both. Now, I don't understand why one of them was, they were released one after the other. One of them was released in 2022 and the other one in 2023. Maybe the artist didn't have the financial resources to release a double CD, or maybe he just wanted to test the audience, but this might have been a double CD just as well. In order to fully understand the message of Denevér, you need to listen to both of them, you need to buy them both, and you also need to be patient enough from beginning to end. And if you do these kind of things, you will not be disappointed, and you will find these two releases memorable enough. Two releases on which Tibor Terebesi plays kind of a very old school black metal, kind of a modernized black metal of the 80s. And this is not because he doesn't know how to play modern black metal. He plays modern black metal with his other band, with Aornos, a little bit too modern if you're asking me, but he decided, you know, to go all the way old school. So yes, two materials that are extremely memorable, but only as a whole, only if you listen from beginning to end, and only if you pay enough attention from beginning to end. It has kind of a, I'm not saying it doesn't contain enough technical variations and enough brutality, but all across the songs there is a similar way of thinking or a similar mindset, which makes it a little bit difficult for the songs to stand out or to stick out individually. That's why, in order to gain memorability, you have to listen to the both of them as if you would listen to a double CD. So as I have stated, there is enough technical variations and quite a lot of brutality and ferocious attitude on the side of the musician, and it is being played all the way through according to all the brutal standards of the genre. It's played by the book, but the intention, as I said, on a scale, it was transposed into the music, although there are some repetitive passages and there are some passages where the musician kind of loses the direction a little bit, but overall it's really fucking good and really fucking laudatory. But the final result, the way I perceived it or the way I felt it, has to do not so much with brutality or with ferociousness as it has to do with romanticism, because this is a romanticized version of vampires and vampirism. Everything focused on the figure of Elizabeth Bathory, or how she is being called in Hungarian, Báthori Erzsébet, yes. And the song Báthori Erzsébet says something of the kind: the magic of human blood, the smell of spilling blood, those magical bloodbaths, you noblest lady of the ancient times. Highly romantic vision upon the past and upon vampirism. And on the song Awakening, it says that I rule the elements, and you will fear the name of the beast when it arrives, and all your strengths will be gone, and there is no medicine for this kind of illness. So just judging by the cover art design or the cover work on the CD, this is, before being a brutal release, this is a romantic release, and this is a classical case of romantic nationalism or national romanticism, call it as you want, which has nothing to do with national socialism. Romantic nationalism or national romanticism is something that goes way deeper than national socialism. It kind of goes into Hegel's theory of zeitgeist, or the spirit of the age, and what Mr. Terebesi tries to do is to capture that specific mindset with its entire flavor of the age of countess and counts and all that atmosphere from the golden age of aristocracy in Hungary. So yeah, national romanticism, it's something much more orally, from the aura, orally orgasmic than any other type of nationalism, because it's something organic in its most primal sense, in the sense of the purest bloodthirst, if you want. Again, Erzsébet Báthori, and national romanticism brings forth the case of the divine downward radiating power of Elizabeth Bathory, who is the controversial Hungarian lady figure, and it's about the kind of emotions that have to do with things such as enduring legacy, vocational self-determination, relentless need for the most powerful expressions and symbols, and the celebration of an epic consciousness, of a legendary consciousness, and the celebration of some self-fulfilling forms of lust. And all of these things, as I said, they kind of gravitate around Hegel's notion of zeitgeist. Now, if we are to discuss a little bit the term vampiric black metal, is there such a thing as vampiric black metal? Can the thematic kernel of a genre, or the thematic nucleus of a genre, is it able to create a subgenre? I would say that we are talking about a subgenre of black metal when both the instrumental parts and the thematic parts create something new. And it can be the case in here up to a certain extent, but still the musician doesn't really seem to agree. He says that this is pure Hungarian blood metal. So this is not black metal, this is pure Hungarian blood metal. Again, as I said, a case of national romanticism or of romantic nationalism. And he even says something of the kind blood metal or no black metal at all. No, I do not know, and I cannot tell, because this is not a very transparent music or a transparent musician, if this kind of things, you know, pure Hungarian blood metal and blood metal or no black metal at all, I don't know if these kind of things should be taken seriously, or how seriously should such things be taken. To my ear, they sound kind of like those words said by Khan Wolf from Nargarot. Khan Wolf from Nargarot would always play this kind of ironic games. He wrote Dark Throne in 2 words separately, and so on and so forth. But either whatever is the case in here, call it as you wish. Some people call some subgenres of black metal war metal. Mr. Terebesi, our young neighbor, because as far as I can tell from the pictures, we are dealing with a young musician from Hungary. He says that it's blood metal from the heart of the beast. Okay, now we have analyzed these aspects so far. Now, coming back to our initial statement, or from where we have departed with our analysis, that this kind of release should be analyzed in Romania, because a Western person like Rauta could not really get the full essence of this release, because he's a Westerner, and you kind of need to be an Eastern European person to be able to fully grasp the vibe of this kind of release. Yes, I agree. We have some things in here in Romania and Hungary, in Transylvania, which are kind of hard to understand for a person living in the West. But what I really don't like is the reference to Bram Stoker's book Dracula. Just a short moment, because too much talking can dry up your vocal cords. Why? Because Dracula by Bram Stoker was a book that was, in my opinion, plagiarized. It was plagiarized from the famous Irish author Sheridan Le Fanu, who wrote In a Glass Darkly, and the first story ever written about vampires was Carmilla, which was kind of a covert or a camouflaged story about sexual perversion and lesbianism, made to sound like a vampire story. And basically Bram Stoker took these kind of ideas from Sheridan Le Fanu, and he speculated in a shitty manner about Romania. And I can accept many things, but what I cannot really take seriously is the bet. You know, if you think that this little fellow has something scary or sinister in him, then that's your perception, and I respect it, I accept it, but I do not share it, because here in Romania we have never seen anything vampiric having to do with the bats. But the fact that the bat is being used as a symbol of the band, I suppose it's something that has to do with the general aesthetics of this particular work of art that Tibor Terebesi inaugurated with this release. But yeah, I think it's better to be analyzed in Eastern Europe, because, you know, context is king. There is the kingdom of the context, and what you need to understand is that the Western vampire and the Eastern vampire are two different breeds of the same animal. Here in Eastern Europe, the cult of the vampire is alive, and here is not about what was her name, Stephanie Meyer's Twilight Saga with Barbie girl and Barbie boy playing the role of the vampire. None of that shit for the new kids on the block to learn about vampires. Things here are way more brutal than with Bram Stoker or Stephanie Meyer, I think it's the name of that lady. Now, about the subject of the vampires, I kind of try to keep an open mind about it, and I can tell you that some of the many stories about vampires can be explained by means of psychological illness. Others can be explained by making reference to organic dysfunctions or bodily dysfunctions or psychological illnesses, but all these kind of things apply just up to a point. Beyond that point, it's not so easy to explain, and you have two options. The first option would be to accept that there are different forms of energy modulating our world, and different forms of energy that can manifest themselves in some different ways. Or the second option would be to go into the domain of cryptozoology. Cryptozoology meaning that we need to accept the fact that there are mysterious animals and mysterious presences or mysterious creatures that combine human traits with animalistic traits, or humans that can at a certain point develop animalistic traits or access ancestral atavic genes inside themselves, so they can regress back to the level of the mythical animal inside themselves. And in certain contexts, as I said, context is king, they can develop this kind of lust for blood and this kind of forms of vampirism. So, but in either case, this Tibor Terebesi guy is a true believer, and Denevér is exactly what it pretends to be. And to give you just a short example as to why am I saying that the Eastern vampire is a different breed of animal than the Western vampire. Actually, not a very long time ago, in 2005, there was a shocking case, because of the extreme brutality that happened here in Romania, in a village called Marotinu de Sus or something like that. Nobody knew about this village, not even here. You know, life in the countryside, low employment rate, people being very poor, drinking a lot and all this kind of stuff. And as a habit in the rural communities, people after a hard day of work in the field, they like to take a comfortable seat in their carriage and, you know, give an impulse to the horse, and the horse just takes them back home while they sleep on the carriage. For which reason the horses in Romania are very smart, because they are the driver, you know, and most of them, they know the traffic regulations, they know how to perform a roundabout. And this particular guy used a huge amount of alcohol, took a questionable place in the carriage, and as the horse was driving him home, he fell under the legs of the horse, and the horse killed him. Unintentionally, of course. It was an accident, because as I said, the ritual was for the horse to go as a driver 20, 30, 40 kilometers, and when they reach home, the horse wakes him up, he puts the horse in the stable, and he goes to his own bed in the house. And the guy that died basically seems to have had a crush on a young lady in the village, and a year after his death, he turned into a vampire, and he started to show up at the window of that young lady, and the villagers said that the vampire was eating that young lady alive, or the vampire was melting her. And they took her to the doctor, because as Denevér says in their lyrics, there is no cure for this disease, and nobody could find the reason for that mysterious illness. But the girl was withering away, and some nice gentlemen in that village, the gentleman that you see in here, went to the house of the young woman and you know, had a couple of drinks, talked about the case, tried to find some rational explanations, but since they could find no rational explanations after having more and more drinks, they decided to take the matter into their own hands, and around 12 o'clock at night they went to the local cemetery, opened up the coffin of the supposed vampire, cut him open, took the heart of the vampire, put it in a plastic bag, and they said that they found fresh blood in the corner of the mouth of the dead one. They found a pool of uncoagulated or fresh blood in the coffin, and as they put the heart in the plastic bag, the heart started to twist and turn. And what they did, they took the heart with them, took it to a crossroads, put it in a fork, burn it, then they took it back home into their own yard, put again the heart on a piece of metallic or a metallic plate, they burn it again, they turn it into amber and ash, they grind it, they would grind the heart and make a tea out of it, and gave that tea to the young lady, and all of a sudden the young lady recovered as if she was never ill. And this was so spectacular that people started to talk at the local bar, of course, and all these rumors reached the local media. And since we are in 2005, we were already living in the age of the internet, the newspapers from the United States took the news and made it famous all across the world, again because of the unprecedented brutality and ferociousness with which the case was solved. But when this kind of news reached the ear of the Romanian authorities, they were not very happy to hear about this kind of things, and they filed a police record for the vampire hunter and had him pay some sums of money as moral compensation to the remaining family of the former vampire, and basically charged those persons for grave desecration. So I believe that Countess Erzsébet Báthory was lucky enough to live in Hungary, because had she lived in Romania, these guys would have taken good care of her. But anyway, let us hear the story from the mouth of the actor himself in a short passage from an interview that was done at the time with him.
Inima lui a fost vie când i-am luat-o din el, am băgat-o în pungă de un leu de ciolofan să zbătea. Dezgropat, în 5 minute s-a schimbat la față, că era roșu. Barba a început să se crească, am găsit sânge proaspăt pe partea, cum era așa, pe partea stângă, la gură. Sânge proaspăt, și când l-am desfăcut pe el acolo de l-am tăiat, înăuntru avea baltă de sânge. Sângele proaspăt, neînchegat. Îi de aici, pe piept, cu coasa, îl tai cu coasa și iei inima. Îi desfaci coastele ca să poți să iei inima, că așa n-ai cum. I-am luat inima, am mers la un răscruci, am făcut focul, am omorât-o în furcă, am venit acasă, am făcut focul în bătătură, pe tablă, am făcut o scrum, am pisat-o și am făcut ceai și am dat fetii să bea.
So, to summarize it a little bit, what's going on in here everything is 90% intricate, extensive and subliminal and supraliminal guitar work. The guitars here are the highest element in the mix, and Mr. Tibor Telebeshi doesn't seem to be very interested in the drums, because the drums are very low, very almost inaudible in the mix, so you need to focus a lot and focus your attention in order to be able to hear the drums. It so seems that he uses a drum machine, although at times the drums show enough creativity so as to render the impression that they are being performed by a real person. But most of the time they seem, you know, programmed, and they are barely audible. or at least the drums are an extremely timid presence in here. The bass and the vocals, the thing with the bass and with the vocals is a little bit better. They are not as heartlessly and unnegotiably subjected to the authority of the guitars as the drums are, so I wouldn't exactly say that the vocals are really a lunatic's paradise, such as it is the case with Impaled Nazarene, for instance. But there is enough Bathory-like disturbing satanic overtones as far as the vocal parts are concerned, and there are enough enjoyable moments of sick madness, kind of moments capable to speak the language of real but also the language of mature maniacs. And the bass lines kind of know how to give some space and some depth, and the bass lines kind of know how to make all those inspiring riffs stand out while giving enough space to the riffage general construction. And the bass lines are always in the right place, always with the dark moment, and they basically push all the right buttons with you. And the bass lines also bring great atmospheric undercurrents to the general dynamic shredder taking place in here. And the bass also makes the great atmospheric leads stand out somehow by default. So yeah, there are great atmospheric guitar leads, and the bass lines make those great atmospheric guitar leads stand out, let's say, by default. But the guitars are the one that need to be discussed in here, because there are no abusive cold riffs. The riffs know how to tie the knots together so as to get the strong necessary blends, and the flying and the flashy chainsawish riffs are all over the place, and they have a dimension of their own. Always the flying chainsawish guitar riffs have their own dimension, and Mr. Tibor Terebeshi knew how to create this personal dimension for the guitar riffage and how to keep every element alive and highlighted by means of the bass lines. And together with the voice, the guitars create some beautifully divided, sensual, bizarre and imperishable theatrical moments, and they constantly edge themselves into a beast of excess, at times a criminally infectious beast of excess, basically giving off an aura of raging sea, because they have the aura of a raging sea. This means that they have the right touches of dramatic flair in the right places, and that just like during a storm at sea, your attention is constantly solicited by the guitar work. We can say that the musician here fixes all the problems of the album at the level of the guitars, and whenever there are, let's say, points without a clear direction, then all of a sudden the climatic chords intervene. The climatic chords of the guitar, meaning the chords that have to do with the climax. And when those climatic chords intervene, the guitars become very high, and they play all their cards on some powerful harmonies, which at the level of the guitar again, they pump the songs and push the album forward in an impetuous way, by means of fancy leads, refined orchestrations, aggressive speed-ups, and also very importantly by means of hard tunes that act like calm elements. And this is, I think, a distinctive trait of these releases. We are talking about hard tunes, hard guitar tunes that oxymoronically act like calm elements within the algorithm of the album. And all these kind of things are being able to bring enough spontaneity in madness, all being able to exploit all those many little nuances and add depth and conceptual dynamics to the overall release. It is the riffs, or we are talking, the riffs are the ones who bring the listener along on a perilous journey with the protagonist, and the riffs are the ones that make the listener feel as if Elizabeth Bathory or Erzsébet Báthory is alive in a glass cage, alive, dangerous, atrocious, ferocious, and young in her thirst of blood. Now, these albums actively pursue a different aesthetics. So yeah, we are talking about the fact that these two albums actively pursue a different kind of aesthetics. Also due to their lo-fi necro sound or underground necro production, the kind of underground necro production coming from the same tree as Tormentor or Mayhem, and if we are to invoke again the concept of national romanticism or romantic nationalism, these two releases sound like a love letter that Mr. Tibor Terebesi wrote to Tormentor and to Mayhem. So these are basically two love letters written by Tibor Terebesi and sent to Tormentor and sent to Mayhem. This meaning that, you know, the production is nicely underdone the way black metal should be, or the way black metal's the production in black metal should be, you know, nicely and stylishly underdone. And not just the instruments are performed in a special way, but this is a very important element, the production itself seems to be performed at the level of the guitar, and this is, I think, the highest point of these two releases. Not just the notes, not just the instruments, but the production itself seems to be played and performed in a certain way. So Mr. Terebesi also tries to play out the production. The production behaves like an instrument in itself. This is what really drew my attention and made me review these materials, is the way in which production behaves like an unknown musical instrument. I would put it like this. So yeah, this was the name of the game here with Denevér, album released for Metal or Die Records. The final mark in this case could be an 8.5, maybe even a 9. It depends on what kind of a die-hard fan of blood metal or vampiric metal you are. But yeah, the scene in Hungary and the scene in Romania are too solid enough scene, they have enough variation, but if we are to gain back that lost vibe of the 90s, then we kind of need new things in here. And this is my personal theory, that whenever you want new things, you need to work with new persons who are doing things differently, and Denevér tried to bring to the table a little bit of that difference in expression at the level of production, at the level of the guitar works, and so on and so forth. So yeah, final mark 8.5 or maybe even 9. Nice thing to do would be to buy the physical copies, send an email to this Yahoo address and contact the label and put these two releases into your collection. Again, brutal, but before being brutal, highly romantic releases. Thank you so much.